Welcome to AI Podcast with Zach. From expert tips and the latest trends to must-hear guest insights, ready to future-proof your brand?
We're all learning as we go.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the fun of it, right?
It's a whole different medium. It's a whole different genre of learning. And these tools, I mean, they change on a daily, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I was thinking about it earlier, just the films I've worked on. It feels like it's been years, since the first one I did, which might have been 4 or 5 months ago. But, my skills haven't grown that much in 6 months, but visually you just see the difference, right? So I'm not necessarily doing a lot different, sort of 3 short films or 4 short films in, and you can just see sort of visually how quickly things are changing. So it's very exciting. And yeah, like you said, it's just changing so fast.
Are you still seeing some of the hallucinations, though?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely, definitely some hallucinations. I think, but it's funny because I come from my background's a little more in like video producing, so and editing, right? And it's a lot of the same problems, right? You're always trimming clips. So, I think on some level you're sort of like some of us are used to doing that sort of editing, trimming around the rough edges. But yeah, absolutely. Seeing some funny stuff. I wish I could share everything that's on the cutting room floor of some of these films because it's hilarious. I think most of us just don't have time to kind of put those together, but
We almost need like a behind the scenes of this is actually what it really looks like, and then this is what we have to do.
oh, right. Yeah, no, again, like some of the things, like just seeing how much is not used, it's a bit wild. Um, but yeah, just in the last couple of days, stuff I've been playing around with, it just feels like on the daily it's progressing, and yeah, I would say, something like Kling right now is just nailing shots. So that's new. Knowing, almost being able to anticipate that you're going to get a really good shot, um, saves you so much time, and I think it's those things that are going to make this process happen a lot faster.
Have you started playing with Kling 1.6? Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of jumped into Kling late. But from what I'm seeing and hearing, everyone's having the same kind of reaction as me, which is just being able to, again, like go into a shot knowing, you're going to get back exactly what you ask for with, very simple prompts, is kind of amazing. And, I think I'm very much a image to video person, not it's not so much text to video. So, it feels like I have a lot of control. And again, like this is something that's really changed over the last 6 months.
As a filmmaker, I mean, you've been doing this for many years. What made you pivot or add this on as a tool to what you do in your creative process?
So I should say my background is, production for, marketing and advertising mainly. Like my full-time gig is at a post-secondary institution, so I'm doing in-house video production and editing. I mean, I've always been, I was the kid with the video camera running around making videos with my friends, and we'd pop in the VHS after and just laugh our asses off. And so that's kind of my background. I never did get into film, actually. I've always been interested in it, but just at the time didn't feel like necessarily a career path. Looking back now, I'm sure I could have done it, but for me, it wasn't at forefront of my mind. Even though I love telling stories, I love shooting video and this and that. But so I did end up, doing sort of more marketing communications types of videos. Um, and I first started playing around with Midjourney, and this would have been late or like summer last year. And once I started being able to kind of, I'm sure a lot of people in this space had the same feeling of, wow, I can create an image, I can create anything that's in my mind, and there's just something really magical about that feeling. So again, being a very kind of creative person who's, you know, I my creative process is very much sort of troubleshooting, right? Like it's always about mitigating issues when you're out, shooting an interview or you're back editing. It's like being creative to problem solve around, limitations of, you know, talent and sound and, cinematography, all those different elements, right? So
Color grading, environment. I mean, there's so many things.
exactly. And I'm like seeing things I know are coming. Adobe's doing a lot right now, but something, what's it, sort of instant or auto compositing, right? So you have an image of someone sitting at a table. It's not easy to put a can of soda on that table without doing a bit of like lighting trickery and this and that stuff I never got into. But now seeing that, Adobe is doing this sort of auto compositing thing, that's going to be really huge uh, for AI filmmaking and, just advertising, AI advertising in general, because you're going to want to work in products into these shots, right? And it's just going to become much easier. I spend so much time um, in Photoshop tweaking mid-journey outputs because, I know if you've got a little, if I'm working on a shot right now, I have two people just walking kind of down a mountain path, right? And in the image that I generated, there was sort of like an orangey glow in the back. And so by the time I took that into Kling or whatever, it turns into sort of a fire, which I was like, okay, I didn't want that, right? So I have to go back, kind of redo the process. Anyway, I just think it feels like very much a convergence of like all of these different technologies. Even though all the players are not talking with each other, they are really complementary. Between like Adobe, Runway, Luma, Kling, I have all those tabs open at all times, and I'm running everything through them all, um, based on their strengths. So, I think we're just at a moment in time where it is new, but creatively, it feels like it's a moment. I don't know if that answered. I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, you did. As marketers, as editors, it is a moment in time right now. It's an exciting time. There's, if there's so much in our minds, like the imagination, you can really now apply it, do anything you want. What was it like when you brought it out to the public? Were you nervous? Were you thinking, well, are people going to think, oh, AI? Because, there's that other side where people are not always happy about it.
right. Yeah, exactly. I think one of the first things I sort of shared that got a little bit more attention was an ad. It was a contest. Curious Refuge did a advertising contest, AI advertising contest, and so I did an ad for Culture Pop Soda, and I think it was my entry was one of the earlier entries, and so I think they used it to kind of promote the contest a little bit. So I was getting, some feedback. It was mostly positive, right? I think people were kind of, um, and then with some of the other entries that they were showing, people were really impressed, thinking, "Wow, we're getting there very quickly. Like this stuff, you could see this stuff on television." Oh, there's my cat. And so yeah, I think seeing some of that feedback online, again, mostly positive. I know there are some, I look sometimes in the comments of some things I posted, and there might be the odd person that has a problem with it.
But overall, I mean, it's your community that you're surrounding yourself with as well.
True, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I have definitely read some comments online under various examples of clips and that. But I think again, generally positive feedback. And I don't know. It's hard to say because I hear that there is a lot of negative feedback out there, but I'm not seeing a lot of it. Like you said, we're kind of in these communities, right?
Like we're all encouraging each other. Let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been amazing. Like the people I've met and the people who are working in this space are amazing. Like so supportive, willing to share their knowledge, um, and that's been inspiring. It's been really motivating. I think I don't hesitate to kind of share my stuff, because I know I'm in that space. But it's nice getting that feedback. It's nice, to know that the stuff we're doing is very like sort of cutting edge, right? And people are like, we're all surprising each other, I think, daily. So it's, again, it's supportive. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. So it's been, yeah, that's been really exciting.
But I do like the community because, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we can ask each other questions. And for the most part, we're all saying, yeah, this is what you need to try doing, or maybe add this or twist this.
Yeah, exactly. And the amount of resources out there are incredible. I'm very much a person who likes telling stories. So I don't really get bogged down too much in the technology. There's so much you can do with Midjourney, for example, that I'm not using half the features, right? I think it's just kind of awesome to just to see what everyone's doing. And I don't know, it's been fun.
When it comes to your process of storytelling, what is, especially when it comes to AI shorts or AI films, what do you exactly do? So you sit down, do you kind of come up with something that has been going on in your mind, it's been simmering, or what's your process here?
So I've recently just started writing scripts. So again, I've been in video for production for a long time, but I've never done a lot of sort of fictional narratives, right? So a lot of it's just thinking. I will kind of come up with something and obsess about it and sort of iterate on a story in my mind for a long time. I'll bounce ideas, uh, off different people. Um, and then eventually I'll start writing it down, which is not, it's not the most exciting part of all of this for me. But even just using AI now, as someone who's new to writing scripts, it's been really great. ChatGPT, you can feed a 10-minute long script and ask it for things like, um, first off, what do you think? Is this crap? Like, be honest. Um, and I think the feedback's amazing because it's sort of like, it's not like it's writing your story for you, and I would never do that. That to me is not interesting. But things like, I was, one of the tips it gave me the other day was like, you should maybe foreshadow this character early on in the story, right? So things like that, as like someone who's new to screenwriting, um, those elements are super helpful. Sort of foreshadow this, like what are some themes that you could kind of focus more on here that might enhance the story, like just little things like that. But essentially, that's where I kind of start. I'm an 80s kid, so I loved Indiana Jones, I loved Star Wars, sci-fi, all that stuff. So you'll probably see a lot of that and the sort of things that I'm doing.
No, absolutely. How is the East Coast of Canada in terms of a community? Do we have one out there?
Great question. So this would have been in September. We in Toronto, we met up through someone in the community. He invited us out to a runway meetup. So it was just people with sort of vague interest. I think there was about 10 of us, and we sat and chatted, and we couldn't think of anyone else, at least in Toronto, that was you know doing this, like sort of having a in-person community meetup, right? I know there's lots of there's people in the scene, or at least that are working sort of lone wolf style around these parts. Um, but I don't think there's been a lot of sort of in-person community here. But like I said, I know they're out there.
This is just a start. It's a tip of the iceberg. I was listening to someone talk about all this. It's the 1910 version of a silent camera.
Right? Yeah,
And then it'll progress, but this is just the start of it all. And what a beautiful time to be here to learn, to absorb, and then to challenge the norms. I think it's fun, and it's not to challenge the external; it's ourselves. It's pushing the boundaries as a creative.
absolutely. It is like you said, it's incredible at this moment in time because it feels like we've been working on this stuff for years, right? Just how far we've come in such a short period of time. And, I see a lot of people throwing around this idea of, like, wow, we're pioneers, which seems a little hard to believe, but it is really true. When I share my stuff with family and friends, they have no idea, for one, how it's being done, right? People, there is still that mentality. It's like you're sort of pushing a button. You're not really, did you write this? Like, what's happening? I mean, I could tell you, I could go on at length on the process, and it's very time consuming. To be honest, it's not for everybody. I think the traditional way of making films, whoever, if you love doing that, you're going to keep doing that. For me, who's likes to do kind of lone wolf, smaller projects, this is great. Um, it's really a convergence of um, technology and creativity. And I think we say this throughout, like, throughout the decades. These new um, technologies come around, but it's really, this does feel like people who understand technology, um, that are creative, are doing such cool things right now, um, on a completely different level than I've ever seen. So yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes.
I've thought about this. Will the price of work go down? Because we're always talking about, oh, AI, you can do this, but it's not always faster. And we know that, getting that right prompt to create that image and then going to Photoshop. And that's just the easy way of you explaining it. There's so much more to it.
Yeah,
There's time still involved. It's just allocated differently.
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think, yeah, like, I'm working on something now. I've been on it for about 2 weeks. I've got about, what, 7, 8 minutes of a short film, right? And it's labor intense. My son came over to me yesterday, and he wanted, there's this service offering you sort of a one click, write a short idea for a movie, you can click a button and it's going to make it for you. And I looked at the price tag and I'm like, maybe let's try and find something else, right? And I told him, I'm like, this is time consuming. It is. It's different than making a real film, with actors and hundreds of people on a crew, but it is time consuming. Just piecing together everything. So it's a lot of work, and I think people are going to start realizing that. And yeah, back to your point about, charging people for things. We're in a weird time. I've taken on some side projects that are not, like, they're more kind of creative. Sorry, get my cat out here.
Now, was that a real cat or was that a clone or an avatar?
Exactly. Yeah, Zach, I was going to ask, you seem like a busy person. Am I talking to, like, the real Zach here?
You never know.
So yeah, so I've taken on a few, like, side gigs. And so that sort of interaction about, okay, can you just do this? Well, it's not always that simple, to get a certain output, right? So it on the one hand, it's like, yeah, the first ad that I did, which I was really proud of, it took me 12 hours, right? Of very intense sitting, which is, I think, for people that saw that ad, they'd find that, like, pretty amazing, right? You did that in 12 hours, like, um, but there is that, like, there is creatively, you don't always have 100% control over what you're seeing, what you're getting, right? So it can be tricky taking on new jobs. It's such a new thing that even, like, clients um, are not sure how it works, right?
We're in this awkward time where, yes, some of us are jumping in to learn it. And then there's some that are on the sides and some that are just saying, no, thank you. So it's going to be interesting to see this shift. And I do wonder, is this like the internet when it had come around? Is this like horse and buggy to a vehicle?
I think so. I mean, honestly, I talk way too much about AI. I have to watch how much I bring it up. I think, but my best example is what Photoshop was doing with generative fill, right? Is that what it was called? It was called generative fill, but you know, using AI, we've had that option for years and years, right? And we don't talk about it as AI. I even hesitate sometimes to say with my films like an AI generated film. I think it's a new medium, right? So I think it's important to say like that you're using these tools. Um, but I just think that eventually we won't
Have to use that word.
exactly.
Oh wow, what a great film. What a great
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like that's a really cool story you told.
right.
How did you do it? Um, I really believe that's going to be the way. You're going to still have your traditional ways of doing things, and then have this emerging technology, which we haven't even landed yet on what it's going to look like. But who's going to be around next year? Are all these services going to still be around? I don't.
Don't know. We really don't know. And when people say, "Well, what's your 10-year plan with AI?" I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right.
You're just testing it. You're just learning it. I kind of mentioned to you is, creating an AI film fest here in Canada. It'd be really cool to kind of launch one off and even start it, well, in person or online, even just to have an international audience come through with your help as well as kind of be an early adopter in this and kind of put it on the forefront because, someone's going to have to do it sooner or later. So I thought, why not? If we can look at that avenue, that might be an option.
Absolutely. Let me know. I
Thank
will.
you.
I'll be there to help you out.
I
I
appreciate that.
know, like I said, there's so many people in Toronto. We've started what's called the AITO network here. I'm not sure if I've told you about that, but it's just myself and a few of us are organizing these kind of monthly meetups and bringing in guest speakers and that. And it grew really quickly. We did have a lot of people at our last meetup. We did have a great guest speaker there that brought in a good crowd. And the people that are at these meetups are, they're writers, they're editors, producers, right? Like
Well, Toronto's a hub. I mean,
it, of course, right? But it's just I love seeing that. There was two folks that came out. They're writers. They wrote a whole show, and they came because they couldn't get it greenlit, so they wanted someone in the group. They wanted to ask for people to do AI video for them to create this television show, which I thought was incredible.
that is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Film Fest, absolutely. I think I've seen there are a lot of amazing artists, AI artists in Canada, and it's just a matter of them sort of getting the attention they deserve. And it won't. I don't think it's going to take long.
No, it won't. And I think for me, the reason I've been holding back for a while now is fear.
Mm.
Fear of being judged, fear of failure, fear of the lashback you'll get.
You know what? It's so interesting. I wouldn't be making films like I am if the technology didn't happen, right? So I'm a person who's now creating these short films. Hopefully, people are gonna like, right? And I think that goes for a lot of people I've met in the community. They're not like they're artists on some level, right? A lot of them are traditional artists as well, and they're just embracing what AI brings to the table, and it's they find it exciting. These are just new. There will be new jobs created, I think. I agree. I agree on the fear part. Worried about what people are going to think. Um, they think we're in such a new part of like a new time right now that we're really just gonna have to wait and see what happens.
But until then, if we support each other, we hang out with each other. I think that's kind of a great place to start in this community.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, everyone that I've met with, chatted with online, it's been really positive.
Oh
I
yeah.
I have I don't know about you, but I haven't seen
But anything you look at, broken barriers, push boundaries, you're gonna get a little bit of resistance.
right.
And I think with
Absolutely.
AI, it's the genie's out of the bottle, and it's not going back in. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's again, it's an interesting conversation to have with people. Another thing that I kind of work with, or I deal with is, again, like I work at a post-secondary institution, and
Ryerson.
yeah, no, Humber, Humber Polytechnic. And so but we train actors, we train, um, we train musicians, we train all these fields, like these arts fields. And so internally, we have to be careful how we're marketing and communicating those programs, because the field's going to change so quickly, right? We'll be on it, but as that progression happens, we just have to be a little sensitive, all right, to, will jobs be lost? What are those jobs going to look like in the future?
Well, these students are coming to college or university and they're paying for this, hoping to come out of there to better their quality of life, and then there's no job, knowing that there won't be a job based on trends and data and yeah, all that stuff.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know people who are passionate about film and music and all that. They're professors in, these post-secondary places, and they'll be on the trends, I think. And I, to be honest, we don't have a choice but to adapt, right?
Well, I was listening to Steven Spielberg and James Cameron and Steven Spielberg on this, and they're saying, yes, let's bring it on. Let's adapt to it. Let's use it as a tool instead of resisting it. I think that's the only way to go about something like this.
Right. It's just it's technology. And so it's going to be leveraged in certain ways. I mean, I've seen some people using AI to create the most mind-blowing sort of VFX looking shots. It's just computer generated images. That's technically all it is. And that's sort of how I see it.
I had Justin on AI Film Guy. He's incredible.
Yeah. I know. I love Justin's stuff. I think that's how I found you.
Exactly.
I love him. He's like dives right in, and yeah.
He's one of those guys like ourselves here and so many others that will open up and say, hey, how do I do this? Or what do I do? He'll give what he's done or what's helped him. He's very supportive of the community, which is incredible to see. And he had the Ahab's Curse, which was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. Again, it's amazing that you can quickly, relatively quickly tell these stories. And that's what I'm interested in, the more longer stories. I know Instagram and these other places are filled with 4-second clips of crazy stuff. But yeah, like someone like Justin telling a full story that you can share with the whole world instantly, and was done by one person, again, in a relatively short period of time, is awesome.
And the detail and the transitioning and storytelling, again, it goes back to storytelling. It goes back to being a human. You're still going to need us humans to bring emotion to that, because you can put a clip together for 4 seconds, but if it doesn't have emotion in it, it's not saying something. It's hard, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's why for me, like, I'm really enjoying learning more screenwriting tips, and how to do what you just said, how to tell a human story. There's nothing about this process that's, the movies that I make and I'm going to make are kind of just coming from the heart, right? Um, I don't think anyone would argue with that. Okay, yeah, no, this is just a short film that this person made with newer technology.
When it comes to learning from others, Justin had talked about something called a 3-act structure.
Hmm.
So it's been really cool to learn how the first 25%, then 50, then 25, and the art of storytelling, because that's going to be the essence. On social media, we just have so much content. Scroll, scroll, scroll. What's going to make some work stand apart from the other? And again, it's subjective to the eye of the beholder.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, right? There's going to be so much coming.
right. I think about this a lot. I'm sort of back and forth about, what do I like doing, right? Like, what do I want to do? And if I do what I like, is there going to be an audience for that? So I'm sort of still playing with some ideas. I read recently something about episodic content being something that we're going to see a lot more of, and I get that, especially creating content in this way, right? Like, I could I make an hour and a half film? I could. Um, do I want to do that? I'm not sure. Like, I know one person could do that. Um, but I'm still a bit on the fence. I mean, I put up Queen One. That was the last film I did. That's on YouTube now, and I think it was sitting at like 35,000 views, which, for YouTube's nothing. But
That's a lot. I mean, 35,000 views.
for what it is, I was surprised. I mean, it's a 11-minute film, right? And in this world of TikTok and short clips on Instagram, I thought that was incredible. Like I was very happy, with that. And
Well, you got the audience. You retained an audience.
somehow, right? Like, and the comments were generally, again, positive. And so when I see that, I think, oh, interesting. Like there is an audience for this stuff. Um, but and I know there's also interactive, like Dream Flare. I'm not sure if you're
No, I've heard of Dream Machine, not Dream Flare.
okay. Dream Flare is they host interactive AI content. You should check it out. It's it's very new, but
Is it kind of like a Netflix of?
it's looking like that. So it's looking like they're kind of going in that direction. Yeah, there's a lot of amazing content there, and a lot of it's interactive. They'll do shorts in this, but so a minute in or like 30 seconds into the video, you get a choice of like, do you want to
Oh,
do this or do that? And so they have a tech like the background technology in that is this sort of interactive approach. It's different than the stuff I've seen on Netflix, but I'm like, oh, AI is a really great medium for that. Again, because you can do things relatively quickly. It's not traditional, and so they seem to have a good thing going there. And so I have a couple films on there. So
I'll have to check it out.
yeah, Dreamflare.ai, I think.
So just before I let you go, Ryan, there's a process: storytelling, story writing, screenplay. Do you go to Midjourney right away, or do you create a storyboard? Do you sketch it out? How do you take what's in text now into a visual?
Yes, I love this part of the process. I just go for it. So I do everything all at once. And I know people have different ways of approaching these things, but for me it's literally the storyboard becomes the film. So I'll create something in Midjourney until I'm happy with it, and then animate it in whatever Kling, Runway, Luma, um, Minimax, and then I'll paste that in my timeline.
On Premiere?
I use Final Cut, but yeah, exactly. So, and then I love editing to music, so I'll have a music track already ready to go and edit around that. And then if there's voice, I do it all like sequentially, so I'm not doing the music afterwards. It's all happening as it happens. I don't know if that's how people typically work, or people are working
But that works for you, and that's your process, and that's
exactly. Yeah. So again,
and you'll use 11 Labs onto the voice, and then are you using HeyGen, or what do you use for the lip sync?
I'm kind of jumping around a bit, but Runway Act One is awesome. So a lot of the characters are me. I'm a terrible actor, but it's been fun doing kind of being the characters. And then Kling's really good with lip sync as well, so I'll run stuff in there as well. Um, but yeah, and you know what? Yeah, I know Hey Gen does it. There's so many different options that are really good. Um, but there's only so many hours in the day that we can play with all this stuff. So, but yeah, that's essentially how I'll do it. It's just I just piece it together and go. I have the story in my head, or at least visually what I want it to look like. But if something doesn't work, I'll go back. Like, I think I worked for about 8 hours yesterday on about 20 seconds of an interaction. And a lot of people would find that frustrating, boring, and they would just not want to do it, right? But I love it. I mean, I'm a parent. I have so much patience for this stuff. One thing I've learned being a parent is patience. So, feel, creating films with AI requires a lot and a lot of patience. The other great thing is I've been lucky enough to be a part of some of the creative partner programs. So that kind of gives you a big leg up because you can keep hitting
That's what I was gonna ask you because if you're on, like, I was on Runway yesterday and my credits ran out.
yeah.
Like, man, this is gonna get expensive. They're not getting it right, especially about Midjourney. So I wanted to get a police car at a police station, and it kept writing like weird words on the car, and I was like, "Come on, please just write police." How have you been able to overcome the wording on certain things?
I'll keep hitting generate again. If you have that option, great. But with that specific case, I'll bring it into Photoshop a lot. And that's where that comes in handy because it gives you that extra layer of control where, even Midjourney they're getting a lot better with text and other services are getting better with text, but having that background to go into Photoshop, and I'm not like a wizard in Photoshop at all, but every now and then going in there, it helps, right?
For someone that's trying to keep a consistent character, how have you been able to do so? What's been something that's worked for you?
I love that you just asked that question because I spent all day yesterday trying to keep my characters consistent. I think if someone tells you that they've figured out consistent characters, they're full of it because it's tricky, right? Like nothing's perfect yet. It is so much better. Um, Slight like side tangent. I think that us as creators, like we're picky, right? Like we'll go like right in to the monitor and
What
like
exactly?
look at the pixels. I think generally people don't care and don't notice slight variations here and there. I think if the story is good and it's engaging and it doesn't feel like AI or CGI, people don't typically care too much because they're so invested in the story they didn't notice that the guy's shirt changed
Well, it became a V-neck instead.
like, and sometimes it's noticeable. And for me who is picky, I go back and I'm like, no, I have to change that because it's going to bug me. And so back to your question, Midjourney does a good job.
Yeah. You click that very subtle or very strong and just
Yeah, so they have a character reference.
oh, okay. Do they? I'm gonna have to play around some more.
So when you're typing in your prompt in the top left, there's a little, I think it's just a little square that you hit, and then if you can upload an image of a person that you've previously generated, and then you redescribe that person and put them back in, and it does a really good job. I think a lot of those changes happen behind the scenes. Like I don't think Midjourney's announcing we've done like a slight upgrade, but over time I've seen it get better in 6 months. And I'm dealing with situations right now where I have two characters on screen that have to be consistent. So it's a matter of getting one down, realizing the next character doesn't look the same. So you can edit that. So you just sort of, you kind of mask them and then drop in their character reference image. And so then you've got the one and the other. And so it's possible. Again, a lot of this stuff is patience and just practice.
And then on Midjourney, or sorry, on Runway or Kling, are you explaining what you want done, or are you using the motion brush or any of that stuff?
I haven't been using the motion brush as much because I think the motion brush is on the last versions. So I don't think you can use motion brush on the new
Prompting. Yeah.
thing. And my things are not like I'm not doing anything like crazy flashy. Um, so
But there's beauty in that simplicity.
yeah, right. I mean, that's enough for me. Like, I don't want it to get crazy complicated. That's when you run into like serious issues, right? Um, but yeah, no, I'm prompting. But I have to say, like, some of the if I could show you, it's hard, but like to show you, I've got a character just sitting leaning against the wall, prompting something like a woman in a black jacket comes up to the man and kneels in front of him. Doing that in Kling, I was blown away in the last few days at how good it was. I'll try to send you a clip, but just to see the reference image you're using to what the shot ends up being, it's incredible. Like you have a character coming in, so an image you created in Midjourney, you've got a character that walks around the corner that you didn't know what it was going to look like, but it's exactly what you described, coming in and then interacting with your Midjourney character as though this character's just been dropped into this space. I find that mind blowing, and it's so exciting. It's been like, again, the last few weeks, I've seen like such a difference in how great things are. I mean, you go on. I know you see all the same things as me, like these examples. It's mind blowing.
So why Queen 1?
Queen 1. So I've always been a person who, I love hotels. And so I actually had a wedding I was going to, which is a destination wedding coming up. And so, I was thinking about, what would be a fun kind of film to do? And I love that idea of, when you go to a resort, if you're lucky enough to be able to go to a resort, like that idea of like getting off the resort and going to see like, what is it really like, in this country, and just kind of exploring. So that was where the idea started. And then I was, playing around in Midjourney with some more like sci-fi images. And then I thought, wouldn't it be fun to, do a story about a guy who just sort of like hitchhikes on a ship to a destination wedding on Mars. And then he just leaves the resort. So that was where the whole idea started. And then, like I told you, I started obsessing about storylines and ideas, and yeah, so I like the idea that he went to this fancy resort and then kind of left the resort and found sort of the original kind of colony that they had made on Mars. And so, he gets involved in, an adventure there. But yeah, it was very simple. Like, does it follow any sort of classical narrative style? I'm not sure. But yeah, I just, I like the little doing twists and that. And it's right. It's a short film, so you have to really pack the story in, right? So yeah, that was sort of where the idea started. And like I said, I obsess and kind of iterate and just, you know, keep brainstorming as I'm going.
Before I let you go here, is there a tip or a tool or a suggestion for somebody that wants to get into this? How do we start? Is there, because there's that fear of the unknown, the fear of, well, I don't know where to start. There's so many tools out here. What do I do?
I would say I would really start with Midjourney. Yeah, just play with Midjourney. Kind of think of a character or a scenario or a place that is in your mind, and really try to create that in Midjourney. Like, take your time with it. Like, don't rush through, and just see what you can do. Like, is it what you wanted? If it's not, keep working on it. It's very iterative, right? And I think, if you like characters, make a character. Like, just be very specific. And
Do you start everything by 16 by 9 though, or generate it for 16 by 9?
yeah, it depends what I'm doing. When I put on the Instagram account, I love vertical video. I just love how it looks, right? But no, generally I'll do 16:9. Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I would just say like Midjourney, and then move on and see like what it's like to bringing that character to life. Like, how do they move? Like, or how do I make them emote a certain way? I think that's a great little project to start with.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, thank you very much for having me on.
We're on this AI renaissance right now. So, I think it would be great to do that film fest and have a bunch of us all come together.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, Zach, thank you. I appreciate it. And I would love to collaborate in any way. You seem very busy in this space. So I appreciate you bringing us filmmakers on to chat. And yeah, let's see where it goes.